Namaskar everyone, and a special welcome to an evening of Atmavani talk. It's really nice to be in your company, everyone. A bit different this evening, so I'd like to say special welcome to all of you. So before we begin, we'll begin with a prayer, and we'd like to thank all of you who have just viewing and logged in. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We'll begin with a prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahavidyam Karavavahe Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahe Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. My dear friends, really a special evening to be in your company, and all those of you who have logged in, thank you so much for viewing. Today I'm going to talk on a very significant topic, and that is breaking our bad habits. Something that is a bit tough for all of us to do, but it's something that can prevent us from our goals, and it could give us a lot of setbacks in our lives. Sometimes habits is okay. I mean, we all have habits. I drink coffee as well, so that's a bad habit sometimes. But I think when a habit becomes an addiction, then that's the problem. And it's okay to have a little habit, but if that habit or those habits are not controlled, it becomes an addiction. And it's very important, because when you become an addict to something or some food or action, it becomes our downfall after some time. And this evening I'm going to let you know what causes it, what we can do to help ourselves come out from this abyss, this kind of our own inner riot, as we say. So it's very important to have self-control, as we all know. If we don't have self-control, it is going to be difficult for us, especially when our habits becomes an addiction, Once a man said to me, Panditji, I can't stop biting my nails. I always bite my nails whenever I become anxious or when I become, nervous. So I said, you know what? The best thing to do is to always replace your bad habits with good ones, with positive ones. And I think that's the best way to go. And so I told him, I said, instead of biting your nails, which is kind of embarrassing for you and your family, I said, you can take the same energy and squeeze your thumb instead. And he said, okay. After some time, he said, Panditji, now squeezing my thumb is a problem. It became habitual. Now my thumb is numb. so from one addiction, it went to another. So it's very important, my dear friends, that we keep our minds very firm and very strong. It's very difficult to break habits. I mean, it's very easy to say for some of us. It's very difficult to break those kind of habits. And but if we find positive ones, my advice to you is always seek to do something positive instead of continuing. You see, psychologically, getting into a habit, right? When you get into a habit, what we do psychologically, we create a mental drain in our minds. We get this mental drain, and that mental drain is filled with these habits that we have. And it's very difficult to break them. So whenever we meet people with bad habits, what we normally do is to try, especially when they ask us to speak to them. I remember a couple once asked me, can you talk to my wife and myself? We have a problem. We always quarrel. And I said, quarreling is not a good positive thing. It can lead to divorce. It can lead to more fights. It can lead to a breakdown in your relationship. So they said, then what we should do? And I said, well, still quarrel, but quarrel about who loves the other the most. And they said, hey, that makes sense. So you can quarrel, but you can quarrel about something positive, right? It is very, very important to cancel the negative things and faults we see about others. But I tell you, habits can be in many, many areas. I mean, you can have eating habits, you can have excessive talking habits, which we call kind of being too loquacious sometimes. Some people love their phones. That can be habitual if you don't have control. Sometimes you can have habit eating excessively. So what is your habit this evening? Do you think you have control over the things that you have no control over? Right? Having a bad habit is a very serious thing, my dear friends. Because when you have a bad habit, it means that your mind needs to be conditioned, right? So it's very, very important. And we could always remember to ask for help. Don't be ashamed to talk about your habits. You can talk to a guru. When you have some of the things you should do when that habit comes into your mind, what you should do. Of course, we'll be discussing that this evening, right? Now, if any one of you out there may have a suggestion and you would like to place that in the inbox, that where you're messaging right now, in your inbox there, in the comments actually, you can assist me in telling us, or informing the other viewers, what you did to come out from a bad habit, whether it's coffee drinking. Now, I drink coffee. I love coffee, especially when I travel in the airport. I love to have my Starbucks. When I go to Canada, I love Tim Hortons. I do go to Dunkin' Donuts sometimes after a nice session. But what I normally do now is that I tell myself, you know what? I'm going to replace, for the month, and Navita told me, always replace your bad habits with good ones. And I do that. I drink chai instead, or I would drink ginger tea sometimes. But I want to make sure that I'm not addicted to that coffee. I must enjoy the coffee, but the coffee must not enjoy me, right? And I think this is the whole point of it. You must be the enjoyer. Don't let the object enjoy the subject. You, the subject, the mind, should enjoy things, but don't allow those entities to enjoy you. So it's very, very important, my dear friends, to talk about your addiction sometimes. I think sometimes when we stifle things, it's because it gets worse, right? So it's very, very important. You can help me, some suggestions that you think to other viewers, what we should do to control our addiction. And as we move on, we will tell you how to control from a spiritual angle what Bhagavan Krishna mentioned to Arjuna about his weakness, his addiction. And I must say that addiction is caused by having a weak mind. I think that's most important. When the mind is a bit weak, we cannot come out from our addiction, our habits, as we may say. If our habits or addiction is stronger than us, then they are in control and not us. I personally believe when we have an addiction, we must be in control and not the objects or not the things that we are addicted to. All our control comes from that of the Atma Bala. And all my gurus in India who taught me, they always talk about, you be the winner. You win the medal, not those things that are controlling you, right? So it's very, very important, friends, to understand what is Atma Bala. Atma means the self. Bala means the strength of the self. And there are a lot of things that we can be addicted to, but when that addiction or habit comes, always chant a prayer. Always remember to say, I am in control. I am in control. You can chant the Gayatri Mantra. You can chant Om Namah Shivaya. What I do when I finish a wonderful session in the evening, my yajnas, and the devotees, we would all go, probably 50, 60 of us will go to Tim Hortons or Starbucks. And I know if I consume that coffee in the night, I'm not going to sleep. So what I do, I would close my eyes just for a couple of seconds and remember my guru. And he would say, just as you have the ability to say yes, have the same ability to say nahi, no. Chant a prayer, remember someone who you have regards for. And you will see that what you love would not become something that rules you. So it's very, very important, my dear friends, we have control. And that Atma Bala is that strength from within the self, that inner consciousness. You know, tell yourself from the Atmic level, I am strong, I am better, I am in control, with a prayer. You see, when our emotions, when we live at the level of the mind only, then we become emotional. Of course, the Vedas, they say when we live at the intellect, then we become the intellectual. When we live at the body sense level, the body becomes sensuous, for sensuous pleasure, all right? That could be also a big threat to human beings. I know quite a number of great men, gurus, leaders actually, millionaires, great friends, who had so much greatness, but they allowed the emotions and the senses to overcome them. And if we don't have control over our senses, then, as we say, in Trinidad language, right, crap will smoke our pipe. So we have to have control, friends. Atma Bala. Always go within and say to yourself, I am not alone in this. I have the blessings of God, Bhagavan. I have the grace of my Guru's Vakya, his speech. My dear friends, our habits can control us if we do not have that control of Atma Bala. So Atma Bala is very, very important. That inner consciousness, that strength that comes from within us. As I mentioned before, our habits can be of many kinds, and I will list them. Gambling can be one. A lot of people, they go to a casino and they may win some money for the first time. And then they said, hey, that was very sweet. I won the first time. And they kept going again and again. Now, please listen carefully. I have no problem with going to a casino, all right, and enjoying yourself. I think you have all rights to enjoy yourself, right? But always remember, you be in control, not the casino, all right? I've seen many places, especially in South Africa, Durban. I remember going there to a very beautiful casino. That casino, the name of it was Sibaya. Sometimes people would come to the sessions and they would clap and they would sing. And I will walk through the microphone and chant and give them the mic. And one lady once, before she sang Om Namah Shivaya, she sang Om Namah Sibaya. Sibaya was the name of the casino. And I remember going there, and a lot of elderly people would just have that credit card in that slot machine. And, you know, they keep losing the money. They found many, many people, elderly people who had heart issues and heart attacks and in those places, the casinos. So always remember, you must be in control. The Lord has given us the ability to think, to have control, to assess, to have that vivek, that discretion, what is right from what is not. So gambling can be one. Another one can be shopping. That's a number one thing. And a lot of men always tell me, Panditji, I have no control over my wife. When she goes there, she loses herself in the mall and she goes shopping all the time. And one fellow said, Panditji, I cannot find my wife for hours when she goes for shopping. And it goes for men as well, right? And one man said, well, whenever I lose my wife, I tend to talk to a younger girl. And then my wife appears right away immediately. I don't have to look for her. So it's okay. My friends, shopping on, without control, that obsession of the mind can create an issue, right? You be the shopper. Don't let because many people who shop and it becomes uncontrolled, they tend to buy things and not use it, or would use it for 1-2 days and never see the object again. All right. Smoking can be another thing excessively, right? I'm not here to dictate what people should do, but what I'm saying is that we must have control. We must have control, my dear friends. All right. What about alcohol consumption? A lot of people just go to that shop, and we will talk about what are the causes of this that can create this mental drain, that groove for these desire, all these desire to come again and again, to want and want and want and want and want. And if you don't get what you want, your mind becomes irritable. It becomes like a tug of war. You keep pulling until you get that food, or you get that taste of the alcohol or a cigarette, right? And a lot of people have damaged their families by excessive amount of alcohol. And not only men today, right? According to some of the viewers, and I'm seeing some of the comments today because the camera is closer to me today, right? I'm seeing your comments actually. And thank you so much for commenting. And one man was telling me in New York that, Panditji, my wife, she goes to parties and she became an alcoholic. And no one is there anymore to see about my children. And this became an issue when she had mental issues. She became very lonely. Her life was treading a different direction. And of course, that man had lost his family, his wife. So alcohol can be something that we have no control over. Smoking, junk food, eating excessively, moments on the lips, lifetime on the hips. All right? We have to control what we eat, because if we don't, then our health issues, they go down and down. And then it's too late when the doctor said, hey, you're already a diabetic. The cancer had spread tremendously. You have no control over that anymore. All we are trying to say, my friends, you have control. All right? You must be in control. Excessive drinking of coffee. I do have 1 cup a day, not more than one. And I believe that sometimes for all our coffee drinkers, it's nice to taste other beverage like mint tea or chai. Try to mix it. Don't become dependent in any kind of object. Otherwise, we become addicted. And that addiction is the cause for our own living hell on earth. So my dear friends, as we continue, a lot of children today, parents keep saying, video games can be an addiction for children, right? People being in the cell phone for a very, very long time. We all depend on we depend on technology. Thank God for technology, otherwise I would not be doing this, right? So I praise technology. But look at the amount of time. From tomorrow, I want you to take a note, right? The things you are addicted to. Make a mental notation, a note of how much time you have spent in either the phone or the things that you should not be, right, in that. I think that time should be given to exercise, right? Fill that void with meditation. Talk to someone who can really help you. It's very, very important, friends. So the mind must be strong and aware of these habits, because excessive things that we do. And you know what it is all about? I think it's all about a quick fix. All of us want a quick fix. We want to feel good right away. We want to feel better. We want to feel free from our worries, our loneliness, our tiredness, our frustration, our depression. And you know why? Because many of us have that void to fill with something. And we are just not filling it with God. We are just not filling it with meditation. We are just not filling the mind, that void, with true connection. We are just not strengthening the mind. And because of all these reasons, the mind can gravitate to such weaknesses and gratification of the senses. So it's very, very important. Don't think about a quick fix. Think about to fix that problem with something permanent. Because I tell you, a quick fix could always wear out, right? That problem would always wear out. Like, for example, you drink a cup of coffee, right? And you feel so good. But then that caffeine wears out. Drugs wears off. That drink that you take will wear out, you know. And I remember one woman, she came and she told me, Panditji, I'm addicted. I'm very, very much, I have that addiction of being loquacious. I just like to talk. I just love to speak. And the lady answers the phone, and after half an hour, she puts down the phone, and the daughter says, "Hey, Mom, wow, that was a quick one." She says, "No, that was the wrong number." Someone called and said it's the wrong number, but she still took half an hour. We must have that control of our speech, what we say, control by what we see, control what we hear, what we taste, what we feel. And this evening, I'm also asking you to input in your comments here. All right? In your comments here, live before me, what do you think that is needed to have better control? I have listed so many of them, and yet there are so much things we can be addicted to. I know Lord Krishna, Bhagavan Krishna, in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 34. And I want you, if you have a Bhagavad Gita at this point in time, probably you can just get one of your texts and turn to chapter 6, verse 34. I remember this chapter very clearly. Chapter 6, verse 34. Bhagavan said something beautiful. Not Bhagavan, but Arjuna. And Arjuna actually is speaking to all of us about his own mind, his limitations, his addiction, his weakness, his void. And Arjuna said to Bhagavan Krishna, he says, Bhagavan, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. The mind is very restless, oh Krishna ji. The mind is restless, Bhagavan. The mind is restless. He said here, Pramati balavadridam. Pramati balavadridam. Arjuna says, my dear Lord Krishna, the mind is so turbulent. Dridam, it's obsessed. It is obstinate, strong and obstinate. Tasyaham nigraham manye. I think, oh Krishna ji, it is so much difficult to control. Vayur iva, Sri, iva dushkritam, or dushkaram. It is very difficult to control, hey Krishna ji. My dear friends, are you in that position this evening? Do you have sleeping disorders because of the mind becoming very busy? Do you have a job and you end up being mentally challenged, being taken away from your job? Do you sit with your spouse and then you're not there, but you're physically, your body is, but your mind is not? Sometimes you can be with your children physically, but the mind is somewhere else. That addiction, Arjuna is speaking to all of us. How this mind can be tossed from one place to the next, becoming so restless. See, my dear friends, the mind is very powerful. But if Arjuna says, my intellect is clouded. I have no discretion whatsoever, Sri Krishna. My mind is weakened. My senses have gone. Arjuna is saying that his mind is being carried away. And he uses a beautiful analogy here. Like the wind, like the storm, the tufan. Tufan means a storm in Hindi. The storm has now taken the boat of the mind very, very far away. For Sri Krishna ji, I have no control over my own mind. This verse in chapter 6, verse 34, Arjuna declares to Krishna ji, my mind is clouded, my intellect is clouded, my senses are weakened. Why? Because of that mind. That mind, the same mind can support you and elevates you. The same mind can disappoint you and dictate you. See, friends, that mind should be refined through the divine. Be kind and shine. The Lord wouldn't mind. It's because of the humankind. My dear friends, the mind is of most important. And I personally believe that most of our addiction or weakness of them comes from that void. That mind is too weak. There is no Lord in the mind. And my Guruji used to say, by constant chanting, by meditation, by a good satsang, by singing, by praising the Lord, you can really come out from that weakness. It's a very important subject I'm talking about, my dear friends. It is a subject that is the cause for our downfall. It is a subject and a topic that causes depression, right? Depression. It's a topic that causes us to lose what we work hard for. It's a topic, my dear friends, that our friends, when they talk to us and they tell us they have this, they drown themselves in alcohol and drugs. They don't feel to go home. That mind is of the subject here this evening. And of course, Bhagavan Krishna gives the answer in chapter 6, same chapter 6, but verse 35. The next verse, Bhagavan Krishna says, Vairagyena grihite. Vairagyena grihite. He says, detach from those thoughts immediately. From the time that thought comes, get rid of it immediately. As it says hello, you say goodbye. I'm not going to entertain it. My friends, vairagya, detachment, grihayate. Grihayate means having nigraha. Nigraha means having control. You be in control, friends, not the alcohol. Nothing else but you be in control. And so, as we're talking about how to break those weaknesses, right? How to break those habits. You can still, I think it's maybe easier to break a habit, but you see an addiction, that's tough. It's really tough, you know. But I'm going to list now, and this is very important for all our viewers, right? And there's a beautiful quotation that I once read, and I would like to share it with you. It says, if you don't water your plant, what will happen? The plant is going to wither, it's going to die. What you need to do, stop watering the mind with your addiction, with your weakness. If you don't water the mind with your weakness, my dear friends, the habits will go away gradually. It will not go right away, but gradually, little bit by little bit, you're going to give less importance to those weaknesses. And this is why gurus are here. Our scriptures are there. Satsangs are there. Bhajans are there. Meditation is there to fill that void. And instead of watering your weakness, water your strength by locating the God within you. You see, that's most important, friends. So first of all, this evening, I think the best way to detach ourselves from that problem is to identify and break those habits. If you want this evening to break your habits, right, I'm going to tell you some remedies. I'm going to give you some suggestions. Of course, you can practice it. It's most important to know what are those things that can support you to receive your goals and weaken those areas that can be a barrier from your life. I think the first thing we all need to do to break our old habits, right? Please listen carefully, is to identify what triggers a habit. One, what triggers a habit? Secondly, focus on replacing positive ones. For example, my habit is drinking coffee. I can easily replace it now by having a chai or drinking some ginger tea in this time. So it's important, friends, to replace our negative habits by positive ones. Thirdly, keep your mind always inspired with higher ideals. All right? Keep your mind with high ideals through meditation, even listening of the scriptures. One person recently told me, Panditji, I would sit and cry every day for my children. My son died, my mother died, and now I'm left in such great depression. I don't love to eat anymore. I have no vigor to live anymore. And something most beautiful she mentioned to me. She says, Panditji, she said to me, since your satsang started, I have been following since March month, and I never stopped. And your satsangs and the various virtual satsangs, of course, have been giving her that mental peace, that support spiritually, that Lord she has found within her heart. And that's very, very important, my dear friends. She has replaced her old hurtful feelings to very peaceful and loving feelings of the Lord. And I'm sure many of our viewers this evening, many of you who are looking at this talk, fall sometimes in these categories, where you feel very lonely. Sometimes you feel tired of living. You feel that there's no support anymore. You feel that kind of emptiness. But friends, that emptiness can be filled with lots of godliness, meditation. You see, when you speak, God listens, but when you meditate, He speaks. And we need to listen to His speech more. Bhagavan is speaking to us constantly, but the mind is too busy doing its own thing, thinking of its own thing. My dear friends, the mind must always keep inspired with a mantra. I would suggest a mantra, not only verbally, but mentally. Om Namah Shivaya, that internal mantra. Vaikarani. Om Namah Shivaya. You can chant the Mrityunjaya mantra. You can chant the Gayatri mantra. Keep the mind inspired with a mantra, friends. Reaffirmation. Read this affirmation, Bhagavan, I am going to change. And I want you all, please repeat after me, friends. Tell yourself this evening, I am going to change. Right? That's most important. Tell yourself this evening that my health is most important. You can tell yourself that I'm going to improve and I'm not going back to my old ways. All right? So it's very, very important to tell yourself, you know what? Bad habits, goodbye. I'm not going to see you again. A good mental thing, according to a psychologist, write your faults, write your dejection, write your habits, your addiction, write it in a piece of paper and burn it or throw it in the ocean and let it go. You need to let go, friends. All right? You need to let go and let God. If your addictions are stronger than you, the evil is going to win, not the God inside of you. You be the better person and be strong, my friends. So here, let us reaffirm this evening. Affirmation, I'm going to improve. I'm going to prove to improve. All right, I'm going to do it. I'm never going to allow my mind to weaken me. I'm going to be strong, and all those things and feelings that affect me, I am going to be the better and the stronger person. It's very, very important, my dear friends, that we keep these ideals in our minds, all right? So we must take a note of every day, am I overcoming my weakness, my dejection? Now, according to Swami Vivekananda, he said something very nicely, as I remembered. He said, you cannot destroy light, isn't it? Can you destroy darkness? No. But you can put on a light. Can you destroy the ego? No. You can rise to a higher spiritual level from your consciousness. Can you destroy addiction? You can weaken them until it's nil and void. It is not, it's just zero. Because I have seen many, many great men who, like a hero, became a zero through their weaknesses. When you can't help yourself, it's a very sad thing. It's a very, very sad thing. I mean, others can help you, but when you can't help yourself, it's a very, very sad situation, isn't it? So therefore, you have to find out what triggers now your habits, your drinking, your smoking, excessive eating, excessive time in your tech that you have. A lot of people just don't like to come home. One man says, Panditji, I just don't want to go home. Because I feel so much stress. I said, no, your home is where you belong. Probably you need to change your attitude with better gratitude towards the people in your home, and they may show more love to you. So my dear friends, you have to know what triggers the loneliness in your life. Whenever you get lonely, what do? Some people turn to alcohol. Some people just go eating. Some people just, or you can choose to go for a walk. You can choose to speak to someone very, very positive, very influential, a guru. All right, all these things we can do. But please, whenever sadness comes to your heart, all right, when sadness comes to your heart, or there's a certain amount of boredom in your heart that triggers this emotion, that depression, that frustration, then worries start, negativity start, how do you manage these things? You do not manage these negative emotions by alcohol, because they don't solve the problem, you see. They don't solve. Drugs, they do not solve your problem. Excessive amount of eating do not solve your problem. Hurting yourself do not solve your problem. So many parents, mothers told me, Panditji, speak to my daughter. She cuts herself. She stays excessive amount of time in her room, in the bathroom. It's nice to listen to the scriptures. It gives us solace. But it's also beautiful to talk about what happens in the real world, isn't it? It's nice to talk about what happens in the real world and how to confront this situation if it shows up in the life of your child. Right? It can happen to your child. It can happen to your spouse. It can happen to your best friend. What are you going to tell them? Bhagavan Krishna tells us and gives us the solution. Rise above your weakness. Detach from your thought that is giving you that kind of negative emotion. From the time a person comes in your mind and they bring that sense of anger and frustration, get rid of that person immediately by thinking of your dear Lord. So it's very, very important, friends. Remember, all right, that we must note what triggers these habits as I list them all this evening, all right? And they all can trigger the weakness of the senses. Because I believe, in Hindu philosophy, in Vedanta, if the mind is weak, the senses are going to be weakened. When the senses are weakened, the intellect is going to be clouded. When the intellect is clouded, the ego rises and holds you and crushes you. When you have feelings like hate and lust, greed, malice, jealousy, anger, frustration, all these feelings belong to the ego, ahamkar. But we need more harmony. We need much more peace and tranquility, love, inner peace, inner joy. These things can allow you to rise above the ego. And the big I, that is the ego, becomes chota, ahamkar. And the God within you shines and allows you to overcome all your weaknesses and your faults. My friends, it is very important to remember, when the senses are not under your control, it is because your mind is not under your control. So it's very, very important to ask now. The question is, what do you think? And I want you to please, you can suggest in the inbox here, in the comments, right? In the comments. And I want you to comment this evening. What do you think that one should do if one has that weakness and they cannot put a stop to it, right? You can message, you can put that in the inbox. What are some of the things do you think is wise for that person? Is it meditation, if it works for them? Singing a bhajan, if it works for them, yes. Is it going for a walk and occupying the mind? Yes. Speaking to a guru? Yes. Are listening to some interesting, amazing bhajans? Yes. Some people look at Mr. Bean for a good laugh. Yes. That is also amazing. I think what is important is a mental shift, that paradigm. A shift from what we feel, that low feeling, to a shift of something very positive. Right? The same mind, remember, the same mind that can elevate you is the same mind, if you have no control, can dictate you, frustrate you, overcome you. Right? And I think what is nice, what I normally practice, what I do, we're all human beings, right? And all our minds are very human. And I would listen to a beautiful music like what you're hearing in the background. I would put on a nice flute with no ads. And I would just listen to the flute music. There's so many different types of music. So you can help you sleep, So musical instrumental is very nice. It brings a certain amount of shanti, Adi Daivik, Adi Bautik, Adhyatmik. Adi, things that can help us externally, things can help us in a wider range. But the answer is Adhyatmik. Always go within your Atma and find your answers. Find your strength there. Atma Bala. I came back to that word. Atma Bala. So friends, sometimes it is nice to call a friend. I know certain place, a Guruji, he would remain back in his mandir after the Sunday morning service, and he will be available to all the devotees who need to speak. I think sometimes, just speaking to a person can really help us. Speaking to your guru, someone you can trust, someone who can really listen to your pains, rather than being addicted and doing things that would not benefit you. And I would believe and I would think that the same energy that you take to do so much nonsense, take that same energy and build yourself to the person you need to be. All right? It's very, very important to build yourself mentally and spiritually. I've seen great, great people, as I mentioned before, great musicians, politicians, great wealthy men, but habits brought them to just zero. All right? So yes, I'm seeing some wonderful comments. Being positive, do the things you love to build yourself. But my dear friends, please always remember, if we are not in control, then it's going to jeopardize our health. It's going to take away our loved ones. It's going to take away that true value of who you are. That answer that you're searching for will never be found if you live at the lower self. But you have to build your higher self, my friends. And this what I'm talking about is not only for Hindus. This is for all of mankind. This is for all our brothers and sisters. And I hope that whatever I am saying this evening would benefit some of you who are looking on, and you'll be able to share this video with those who need that inner strength, that Atma Bala, so that they will have a much more effective reason to live. I speak to so many young people today and they have no reason to live. Why? Because that mind is empty. Their existence is empty, right? Their existence is so empty that they fill it with drugs and other pleasures of the body, all right? We need to fill our minds with love, with goodness. So whatever profession we are in, this, friends, is very, very important to achieve our goals in this life. Don't allow our weaknesses, all right, our addictions to take away that spiritual goal. We are here for a reason, and that reason is to rise above our weaknesses, to achieve that divine substratum, to achieve that oneness, that Brahman. That is what our goal is for. Our goal is not to run back to our weaknesses, all right? I remembered one person was telling a Guruji was talking, and he said, one man is telling him, he just loved to hurt people. That's his joy. And I sometimes wonder, is it a past life episode or a past life samskar that is there sometimes that people have no control? Do you think so? Do you think sometimes our past life, things that we had no control over, our addiction and weaknesses from our last life, came over in this life? And that's the reason as we grow older, we must grow sweeter. We must be able to grow controlling the things that is an obsession to the mind. And I would suggest to myself, to all of us, to all of you, as we grow older, let us grow in control. Do not grow older with that obsession in your mind. Otherwise, it's going to hamper your journey towards that ultimate goal, that Bhagwan. And then, not only that, but we have to come back in this world again and burn out all the things that we didn't work with in this life. I know that Swami Paramahansa Yoganand would say, the things you didn't control in your present life, how would you expect it to go away in your next life? It's going to be even stronger in your next life. But you know what? We are not there yet. We are still here in this life, right? Let us focus on what we are doing in this life, now and here. So, Bhagavad Gita really gives us so much answers, really. It talks about prayers. It talks about shreyas. Bhagavad Gita talks about, if you really want to have control, Bhagavan Krishna says, prayers, that Sanskrit term, you must look into it, this beautiful term for Bhagavad Gita students. Prayers means a temporary remedy, a momentary satisfaction, So prayers is that is momentary, that leaves a karmic effects, that harsh, that harsh kind of trail behind us. That is called shreyas or prayers. Prayers is that which is temporary. It is not everlasting. It is a satisfaction, but it leaves a karmic impression, right? Then Bhagavad Gita talks about shreyas. Shreya is always something very positive. It means something that is beneficial, something that is right, not what is good. Prayers is what is good, but what is right for us is shreyas, that will benefit our spiritual journey. So there are two aspects of Bhagavad Gita, shreyas and prayers. Prayers means that which is temporary satisfaction, like a nice glass of probably some intoxicating drink, and you feel good, temporary, and said, yes, I'm the man. But it wears off. Some people says, when I take a good smoke, I feel I am the king. But what about when it wears off? Everything wears off, my friends, except that Atma Bala, that divinity, that love within yourself. So it's very, very important, my dear friends, that you are in control. All right. So I'm just going to kind of bring down the curtain in my conversation because I thought this is a subject that many of us we need to hear. It's something that we all should look back. You can always look back at the video and probably something that you bypass, you can get back from the discussion. And once someone went to Swami and asked Swami, Swami, I'm really addicted to smoking. What should I do? Swami said, if you have to smoke, you don't let the cigarette smoke you. But Swami, do you think I'm going to go to hell if I smoke? Swami smiled and said, yes, you will go, but just you will go a little faster than normal. But my dear friends, our weaknesses, they are the cause for our own downfall. Therefore, I read a beautiful poem today, and I would like to share it with you. The poem, it goes like this. I have tried to drink my pain away. I tried to smoke it away. I tried to run away from my weakness, my pains. All that it did is make my mind, my senses, my entire being numb. And every time I tried to escape from it, I found them in my sleep. Each time I ran away from them, I found them in my sleep. So addiction and habits will never run away from you. You have to run away from them and weaken them until they stop running after you. You know, Swami Vivekananda said the monkey who puts his hand in a jar and takes the big laddu out, his hands get stuck in the jar. He tries to pull his hands out, and his hands get stuck. And while he's under such a quandary, the person of the home comes with a whip. And now he's about to attack the monkey. But monkey is still holding on to that object, which is the laddu, the sweet laddu, and doesn't want to let go. And so the monkey gets caught, he gets licks. All that the monkey has to do, really is to let go the laddu, right? And let go and let God, let free. Our problem is holding on to the past, holding on to the people who hurt us 20 years ago, holding on to people who have hurt us verbally, who give us a bad drive. We just don't want to let go. And the greatest spiritual benefit to this topic is letting go and letting God. Letting go and letting God. So it's very, very important, my dear friends. Let us not be carried away by our lower feelings, but fill that void of the mind with devotion, meditation. Don't ever allow the mind, the intellect to be clouded. The mind is weakened, it weakens everything. Your mind is the answer to going there and strengthen it. Instead of feeling sorry for yourself and wanting all the attentions of the world, that is not going to help you. You have to help yourself. Come out from that abyss, that dejection. I think I have covered so many areas just by this one topic. And I'd just like to end with a story that happened to a young boy. And it was pretty sad. This young man who was given a Corvette for his birthday, very expensive vehicle. And the young fellow had no friends. He was depressed. And he would take his car, expensive vehicle, and he would drive excessively fast. The first day, 80 miles per hour. Then he went to 100. Then he went to 120. Then 140, 180. Until And his parents didn't know what he was doing. But what he was really doing is trying to drive excessive amount of speed so he can get that inner gratification, that sense of pleasure by driving very fast. One day his parents, in evening, they were home and they get a call because they found the wallet and so on. That boy crashed into a wall and smashed that vehicle. The vehicle was shattered in so many pieces. It was even difficult to identify the boy's, that son's body in the car, in that vehicle. And then when the parents realized he left, he would write notes when he researched his room, is because that boy was depressed. He was an alcoholic. He was a drug addict. He had no control. What he was doing, what he was eating, what he was taking, it interfered and messed up with his mind, his intellect, his entire physics. He had a psychological imbalance. And that was a situation of having no control. I beg you, brothers and sisters, on this special evening, don't be that person. Don't even wish to have a situation of that kind in your home. As parents, let us start speaking to our children. Speak to each other. Find out what is the weakness. How can you help them? How you can help others by them coming out from that aggression, that inner weakness that is so dark. Outside, you can place all the makeup. It may break up, all right? But that mind needs to be rectified. We need to alert the mind. We need to educate the mind. We need that meditation for that inner devotion, inner harmony, inner contentment. Friends, we need that inner harmony. We really, really need that inner harmony. So I do hope that this talk would have brought some solace and some inner vivek and of course what we call upadesh, that higher knowledge of the self. If you know yourself, you will indeed know the God that is in there. And if you know your Krishna, your Sri Ram, your Guru, is the Sakshat, is the true observer, observing every thought, every word, every action, and everything that you do, then how can you be less than a very refined, great person? My dear friends, keep on keeping on. Keep that smile. And if things are not right for you, it's going to get better soon. All that you need to do is to let go the pains, let go the ugly feelings, let go the people who have hurt you, let go the intense aggression from within yourself. And you will see how sweet and wonderful life is going to be inside. When the inside is sweet and wonderful, the outside is going to be amazing. It is going to be a Disney world and not a dizzy world. My friends, thank you so much for viewing. I really appreciate all your comments, all your suggestions, all your words of solace, and of course, the information that you have placed. I do hope, again, probably next week, we'll take another angle of a different topic. Thank you so much for viewing, everyone. This is where I bid you the very best of the evening, and we would like to end with a prayer. Please enjoy your inner self, the God within. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudakshate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Jai Shri Gurave Namaha. Thank you so much, everyone, for viewing, and I hope to meet you again sometime. Namaskar.